David, can you continue for a minute? Yeah. Do you think recall legislation would be appropriate in this case?
Pardon me?
Do you think recall legislation would be appropriate in this case?
I don't think that the question is recall legislation at the moment. Recall legislation is a very important issue and a very important thing to talk about. But the question here is whether Mr. Harper and Mr. Emerson are going to fix the terrible mistake they've made. I think that's what these people are asking them to do, and I think that that's a reasonable request on their part.
I thought they were saying recall Emerson.
They're saying de-elect Emerson. And,
it's not recall. I heard him chanting recall.
No, that's fine.
Do you support recall legislation federally?
I'm not a federal politician. You have to talk to Libby and Bill 6A and those folks about that.
Right, but as a citizen, as a voter, would you support that legislation?
Depends what it says.
It says recall politicians, recall your vote, be able to recall.
What are the rules? What are the structures? What are the processes? I think you have to have a look at that and make a decision. I'm not opposed to recall legislation, but I think we have to look at it and see what it says.
Not in favor either.
Well, let's see what it says. Make a proposal. Let's see what the proposal is, and then we make a judgment. I gotta go.
All right.
I was quite pleased to hear the responses as well of all of you to the last set of questions. They're questions I think that are absolutely critical. However, how do we know that if you're elected, you'd actually carry out what you say that you would? I therefore have a two-part question. One, with respect to recall, which is many people's response to that particular question. And recall, I would like to point out, is something that wasn't considered back in 1867 when Canada was constituted. The means of information technology, for example, simply weren't around at that time. They are today. We could not only have one of a wide range of different forms of recall, we could actually engage, if we wanted, in a form of perpetual voting by all members of a given constituency. So my questions are as follows. First of all, if you are elected, first of all, what is your party's position on recall legislation? If you were elected, would you introduce recall legislation? If so, would you entertain that it may go so far as a perpetual voting machine? And secondly, if you were elected and it were shown that in your constituency you did not enjoy the support of the number that would be considered necessary for recall, say in this province, that cutoff level, would you voluntarily resign from your seat?
Well, I believe the Liberal Party of Canada does not support recall legislation, that they believe that you're elected to govern and you should take responsibility to govern. Having said that, I have a personal view, and my personal view is that I'm entering politics for the first time because I want to accomplish things and I want to be accountable. And so for me, I will recall myself if I feel that I'm ineffective at delivering the kinds of results and representing effectively the people of my riding. I will impose strictures on myself and deliverables on myself, but I'm also not opposed to hearing from the people in my riding. The problem that you encounter with recall, as you know, is suppose the government is delivering on its agenda, but all of a sudden everybody is unhappy because of some unintended consequences. Do you then subject people to recall because the party was elected on a platform and then 6 months later the public didn't like the platform? Or how do you make it selective and pointed so that you can recall people who are really failing to do what they said they would do or have committed some egregious act that no longer gives them legitimacy to govern, versus just the ongoing noise that we've seen in BC, where recall became a way of perpetually refighting the last election.
I too believe that there should be a law about selecting candidates directly from the people at a nomination process, not like what the Liberals did in my riding, Vancouver Kingsway. They parachuted a rich guy into the riding and kicked out the sitting MP. So I think there should be a law on that. I'm not in favor of recall. I think it's an American right-wing institution, and I think it didn't work provincially here in BC. It doesn't work, and it was exploited by the Gordon Campbell Liberals who funded a bunch of front groups to try and cripple the government of the day.
I think recall is on the basis a good principle. It is a very good principle.
All right.
You don't think it might be open to abuse?
Well, is elections open to abuse?
Oh yeah.
Well, it's the same thing. It would be no different. The right for me to give you my vote and to take it back is what recall is all about.
I think that makes sense. I think recall is an important right that we should exercise, just like voting is an important
That's right.
we should exercise. Yes.
And as long as we don't have the legislation, we can jump up and down, we can march in the streets legally.
I think you made a good point there, because it's not just about recall, it's about the right to recall.
The right to recall.
Hey, hi, how are you doing?
What do you think about recall legislation?
Recall legislation?
Yes.
I think that it could enhance the democratic process if it's organized properly.
Would you advocate for legislation to have permanently with politicians so we can recall them?
Yeah. I think that there should be good grounds for recall.
Good what, pardon?
Good grounds for recall.
Grounds for recall. What are the grounds?
The danger of recall is that you can have a special interest group that has lots of resources, manipulating the media and manipulating the public to recall somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if there's good cause for recall, then I'm in favor of recall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do I need any special grounds to vote for you?
If you vote for me, then it's within the context of an election, of a democratic
That's
election, right?
Yeah.
But a recall, if it's
There's a review on the vote.
pardon me?
There's a review on the vote saying, well, I changed my mind, I want to change my vote.
Yeah, again, it has to be done so it cannot be abused, you know. But I support the principle of it, but I don't support a blanket permission for recall, because I think that special interest groups or well-financed special interest groups will make more use out of it than grassroots organizations are able to.
Would it be different than during elections day when the special interest groups put advertising and propaganda and ask for your vote? Would it be any different?
No, probably not.
So why are you objecting in one case and not in the other?
I'm not objecting to recall. All I'm saying is that there should be some solid grounds for it.
The fact that I want to vote for you is a good solid ground for me. I don't have to give any reasons why I vote for you. It's my free will.
Right.
When I want to take my vote back,
right.
You're saying I need some solid grounds. Why is the difference between voting for you in the first place without any request of solid grounds, but when I want to take it back, you want solid grounds? Why?
Well, all I'm saying is that there ought to be some kind of a mechanism within our electoral system that prevents people from doing what Emerson has just done.
And I guess we have to move really slowly. We'll just stand.
Parce que c'est moi. Is de-elect means the same as recall?
Recall, it's apparently it's a question of the de-elect is the proper word, but it's
Not recall.
We don't have federal legislation to recall.
Would you like to propose that?
A recall legislation? No, I don't know. I just want Emerson to resign. I don't know about the legislation.
But you know that you need the legislation to force politicians to do something. Without legislation, we're just protesting.
Yeah, that's
They
true.
go by the rule, not by the protest.
Yeah.
So do you think that we should have recall legislation?
Do I think we should have recall legislation? I don't know what to say about that. Yeah.
kind of determination, but I will say that we don't have a plan or a law that we're proposing around a complete recall package.
Just tell me what's your name.
My name is Ivan Thurman.
Okay.
Ivan Thurman.
And you are?
President of Vancouver Kingsway Federal Liberal Riding.
Okay. And you would like to recall Emerson?
Basically, I would like to what the people of the Vancouver Kingsway wanted. They wanted by-election. They wanted to know that
Does the by-election mean recall?
I recall. I think that would be possible of the Vancouver Kingsway voters.
But what do you personally feel about recall legislation? Should that legislation exist for all politicians, not just for Emerson?
My personal, I think that would be the wishes of the voters of the Vancouver Kingsway. It should be the way it happened so quick, and this is not a wishes of Vancouver Kingsway.
How about recall legislation?
Even if it's that, they have to recall it. They have to recall it. But you cannot do something like this to work against the wishes of the voters. So.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Do you think we have recall legislation?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think so. The last recall legislation in BC seemed to have had some problems with it, but I think some kind of sensible recall would be useful, especially in the circumstances of David Emerson.
Support recall legislation?
Yes.
You would? Would you like to have recall legislation?
Absolutely.
We
should have federal recall. We should have somebody in Parliament take the lead on changing our electoral system so this sort of thing can't happen anymore.
But we have to legislate that.
Absolutely.
We don't have it right now.
There's very few rules. A very elite few can decide the fate of the country without any accountability. That's just not right.
Yeah. So you would demand from the next election from your politicians to implement recall legislation?
I think we should look at recall. We should look at proportional representation. We should look at a whole range of reforms.
Would proportional representation make you recall Emerson?
No, but I think the sort of thing that's happened here would be less likely to happen.
With recall, you would fix it?
It wouldn't fix it directly, but it would be a step in the right direction.
But wouldn't you recall Emerson if you had
recall? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
If we had recall legislation in Vancouver Kingsway, we would get Emerson out.
Would you like to have the right to recall your vote?
Oh, yes.
What do you think about recall legislation?
Recall legislation?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Sounds good?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Would you advocate for such a legislation? Would you promote that if you were giving your vote to any politician? Would you demand that they legislate recall so you can give the vote and you can also take it back?
You know, this is something that I want to think about. I haven't thought about it very much yet.
No, I think that recall is an essential part of a program for democratic renewal. The key issue is how to vest sovereignty in the people so that it is people themselves that are making decisions, giving instructions to their MP, and have a means of holding their MP accountable.
And that would be through recall?
Recall, initiative.
If you run for elections next time, would you put as part of your platform that you will bring some bill for consideration in Parliament or provincially or municipally where recall should be legislated?
Absolutely, both federally and provincially. Provincially, we have recall legislation on the books, but it is so onerous, so
difficult,
practically impossible to implement. That's right. Well, more than 85% of voters voted in favor of recall, an initiative in the
10 or 12 years ago, 15 years ago.
Election, and
That's right.
then the legislation they brought in was impractical to implement.
What do you think in this case, recall legislation would help people that want to change a politician?
Yeah.
So would you...
Like we have in BC, you mean?
Well, the one we have in BC is like a car with flat tires. But make a proper workable type of legislation for recall federally. Would you, if you were a voter in this area, would you demand that from a politician?
Absolutely. Yeah. We need stronger recall legislation.
We need
stronger
to fix
referendum legislation.
We need to fix the provincial recall legislation.
Yeah,
because
it's ineffective at this point.
40% of signatures is almost impossible. But the makers of that policy did it on purpose, so it won't work.
Well, and it was first time out, so it's time to refine these things and improve them.
Will you?
If they don't work properly, you take care of, make changes that will work.
Yeah. Will you advocate for that? Will you go and ask for people to review that recall legislation?
It's something that we talk about that. I mean, the NDP has been brought recall legislation into being, and in its first. And haven't had an opportunity to revisit it. It's something we will definitely be looking at.
Would you question that next time you're in Parliament with your colleagues there?
I won't be questioning it right now because it's not on the table right now. But we've addressed it in our.
Can you bring it to the table?
Bring recall legislation to the table?
That's right.
Well, it's already on the table, so it would be amendments to the recall legislation.
Would you ask for it?
That's something I'll look at. I'll definitely see what the status of it is. I'm not aware of what, if anything, is in the works right now to make changes.
Well, just to make it more workable. Would you advocate that?
Yeah. I'll support making it more workable.
Okay. When is the next meeting? When can I talk to you again about this? In a month from now?
A month from now? No, we're solid on the budget right now. We're doing budget estimates debate. So this session, it would be in the next session is probably
September.
when it would be possible to look at addressing it and looking at it.
So
we can raise it in the House, but we won't have an opportunity to do that likely until the fall.
So can you raise it in the House?
Can I raise
the issue of recall, amendments to recall legislation to make it more workable?
I'll definitely think about it.
You think about it?
Yeah.
All right, Gregor. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
I would say that citizens should have the power to recall.
I don't like recall, actually.
You don't like recall? Do you know what this meeting is about here today?
It's about having another election.
I thought it was recall.
No, there's a difference when you talk about recall legislation.
I hear them yelling and screaming on Kingsway saying, recall.
Yeah, I understand.
But they don't mean that.
Well, no, some of them may. I don't agree with recall legislation.
Because
I think sometimes when you're in positions of power, you have to make difficult decisions based on a lot of information that you have. If you have recall, you're only making decisions based on populism. And I think that's not necessarily leadership.
Elections are not about populism?
They are, but once you're in positions of power, sometimes you have to make difficult decisions. It's easy to always make a popular decision, but that's not necessarily leadership. In this case, I believe he got elected by fraud. He should just resign. Never mind recall, he should just resign.
I think that recall legislation would be really important.
So, Donna, you think that the voters should have the right to recall a politician?
You know, quite frankly, I think that recall should be immediate.
If you're running for office, when you run, would you advocate the legislation of that recall?
Absolutely.
An initiative?
Absolutely. Recall and initiative is mandatory in a democracy.
It is democracy. Or is it?
Yes, it is democracy. Without initiative and recall, there is no democracy.